Hello, everybody. First and foremost, we want to say thank you very much for listening to our 7 Days podcast. We appreciate all the feedback that we've received. Now, if you like the 7 Days podcast, Shoshana, can you tell our people what they need to do?
Well, number one, you need to subscribe if you haven't already. There'll be a button which will say follow or subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. So make sure you click that because that'll tell you when a new podcast is out, which is every fortnight. The second thing you need to do is share it. Get it around. Tell all your friends or particularly, I guess, any creative friends. If when you're listening to this, you're like, oh, this person comes to mind, go tell them about it. Go share it. Get them to have a little old listen to it. Because we want everyone to enjoy and listen to the podcast, you know?
Agreed. Very well put, Shoshana. Look, we hope you enjoy this episode. It was a lot of fun to do. We love you all. Click subscribe and we'll see you soon.
Catcha.
And God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. Behold, it was very good. It was very good. It was very good. It was very good. Behold.
Oh, we're on. Hello. Hello, 7 Days listeners.
What a start.
Welcome to our newest podcast. What a start that was.
What a start.
Hey, I'm Dan.
I'm Shush. And today we have...
James.
We did say first in best dressed in terms of names, and you were both a firecracker.
All right, let's go. Let's try one more time. Who've we got first?
William
and James.
Hey! Oh, that was perfect.
That was awesome. I loved it.
You know how we were talking about editing? That is not getting edited out. Just letting you guys know.
It's gold. Oh,
so we're going to touch on, I guess, a bit more around your character and who you are. But first, what we like to do, first thing, is ask you just a group of probably silly questions, just so people get to know you a bit better and some odd things about you. So let's kick off with this.
Of your
Very
life.
important. It's called the Fast Five. So we're meant to just first answer that comes to head say. However, this segment normally goes longer than that. So
and mainly because of Dan and I.
Yes.
Talking.
So I'll start, Shush, if that's all right.
You start.
So, my first question to both of you is, what have you binged recently?
Ooh, nice.
The Orville.
The Orville. Ah.
Is it good?
Yeah, I'm enjoying it. Seth MacFarlane. Maybe not everyone's cup of tea, but it's kind of a Star Trek, Star Warsy type thing with some humour mixed in. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, cool.
Beautiful.
Super cool. Will?
How about you, Will?
I've been binging Designated Survivor on Netflix.
Oh, is that the one where he's like fifth in the rank of president and everyone dies in front of him and he becomes president? Is that what that is?
Pretty much, yeah.
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 Yeah. There you go.
I started binging it quite a while ago, and so I decided I should finish it off.
I do that all the time. I get like halfway through a series and then I lose interest or something happens. I never finish it. It's terrible.
Yeah, it kind of went downhill, so
Oh,
it's done now.
It's done. It's over. All right. Second question. Go back to your childhood or kids or whatever. Big Ted or Jemima?
Big Ted.
Is it sad I don't know what those two are?
Will
was
on
a
play
great
school.
question.
Thank you. On play school. Do you remember like the toys? And there was like Jemima and oh no.
I'll go
Will's
with
just
Big
shaking
Ted.
his head at me.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
Big Ted, Big
Not
Ted.
a play school person. That's good. We found out something about you.
It's true.
All right, the next one is, if you had a boat, what would you name it?
I love this.
Visitation, so that I can say that I'm out on visitation.
Oh yes.
Ah,
That's so good.
I like that.
I haven't thought about this one before.
Yeah, I
What would
thought
I
it might
name
get
my
some people
boat?
stuck.
I might have to pass on this one. I do not have a name.
You could call it Will Searle or something.
There you go.
You know,
I could
just
name
call
it
it
after
the
me.
William.
Yep,
The
the
William.
William. That works.
Yeah, that sounds great.
So good. All right. Would you rather always have to eat standing up or always have to enter your car through the boot?
I reckon car through the boot.
Car through the boot. Would rather eat sitting down.
Yep.
Fair
I
enough.
think so.
Fair enough.
I'm not sure. I guess I'll probably say through the boot as well, because I have a really large SUV, so it's really not difficult getting into my car anyway. So.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Fair enough. That's an interesting question.
It's very youth ministry. I
Isn't
just
it?
took it
Isn't
from
it?
a youth group.
All right, and the last one of our Fast Five. What is the one movie you can watch over and over and over and not get sick of?
Ooh.
We're really stumping these guys today, Shush.
They're just such good questions.
They are.
I reckon I'm going to say Get Smart. I love Get Smart. There's probably a lot of them that I can watch over and over because I love all those old classics, rewatching them, but I'm going to say Get Smart.
Yeah, good one. Good one.
Yeah, I think I will go back a little bit further and say True Lies with Arnie Schwarzenegger and Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah, good movie.
I think it just has the perfect balance of action, quick one-liners, and a bit of comedy.
That's a good answer.
That thought went a long way. I really appreciate it.
Just so we all know, mine is Dante's Peak. Does anyone know what that
that's a
movie
classic.
is? It is so bad, but I will watch it every
But
day.
so good.
No dramas. Oh, it's so good.
Well, we've learned something about all of you now.
Yeah, there
Thanks
you
so
go. I
much.
just had to put that in because I just thought mine was Dante's Peak, and that's so weird. But anyway,
It's
well done.
good,
Fast
it's
five
good.
over. Well done, guys.
You made
we
it.
survived it.
Good work.
All right, so let's get into the grit here, Shush.
Yeah, let's do it. So, essentially, before we get into it all, we do want to know a little bit about you in case people who are listening don't know you at all. So I guess, can you each tell us a rough overview of kind of who you are and your interests, and I guess why did we come to you to come on the podcast? What are your interests, and I guess what are your why you got like skin in the game as such, you know, because you're both wonderful and experienced in what you do. So we just want to share that with everyone listening, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Cool.
Do you want me to take it, Will?
Sure.
All right.
Still haven't worked this thing out.
Yeah, that's right. So, James Cox. My parents are or were Corps officers. They're retired now. I used to work in the Salvation Army in the IT department for 13 odd years. I attend MacArthur Corps and have attended other corps as officers' kids normally do. We kind of go around bits and pieces. I'm now married. I have 3 beautiful children. I love Lego, just as an aside, building things. But I love all things tech. In fact, I'm even open to say that I would be addicted to technology. Just putting everything out there on the table. I absolutely love technology. My current job at the moment is I build mobile applications. I've got a small team. We're building a mobile application to connect nurses and hospitals together. But outside development stuff, I'm heaps keen and passionate on AV tech. Absolutely love it. And I think I've been doing tech around 20 years. I started getting into it when I was about 15 years old. So if you are really good at maths, you can probably work out my age from there. So I, do all things tech in the Corps. Do love doing tech at things like camp. So Equip's coming up. So heaps pumped and stoked for that. But yeah, that's me.
Okay, so I'm William. I am from Wollongong in New South Wales, and I attend Wollongong Corps. Throughout the week, I run a company which installs audiovisual bits and pieces around the place. So I guess, that's really my passion. I love audiovisual, I love tech, and I do also love Lego. I have to agree with you, Jimmy, on that one. I'm a big fan of Lego. I've probably got way too much around the house. But yeah, that's me.
Beautiful.
So cool.
Can I ask a question straight away from that? We're going to go into something else, but I want to ask something really quickly. You mentioned AV and tech. Can you give like the dummy's guide to what these things actually are? Because you hear like terms. There'll be people that are listening to this that are like, I hear the term tech and I think slides on a wall, like, or what? Can you just quickly give us the brief overview of what is AV and what distinguishes that from other things that are in tech?
Yep. So I think AV is anything that makes a sound or shows you words on a screen or lights something up. And we normally speak about that from a church context. And I think the word tech is much wider. It's anything technology. So, IT and AV. But yeah, that's basically what AV is, I think at least.
Yeah, I think from a church perspective, anything that's not a songbook or a song leaflet. So no pen and paper business. Yeah, anything that has a bit of electricity running through it. A being audio, V being visual. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thanks for clearing that up. I actually asked that question for me, no one else. Just my personal question. Also, can you expand on just what's your spiritual journey been? Like you mentioned that you're an officer's kid, so I'm assuming you grew up pretty much going to church. Will might be the same, but what's kind of been the spiritual journey up until this point?
Yeah, so being an officer's kid, have been going to church pretty well all my life. Well, that I can remember. Look, I think the good thing that I take away is that my mum and dad are heaps proud that they've got 4 boys and all 4 of us are still church attenders and still self-proclaimed Christians. So I take pride in that. But definitely, I can't honestly remember the very first time that I committed my life to the Lord. I do vaguely remember recommitment type ceremonies or days or whatever, but have definitely been in the church. I love being in the church. I love being a Christian, and there are still days that are as tough as nails, but that's for everybody, and Christians aren't immune to that. So
yeah. So I'm pretty much the same. I've attended Wollongong Corps down here pretty much all my life. My parents brought me along when I was very young, and I've gone through all the usual Sunday schools, junior soldiers, corps cadets, and whatever else we did as kids. And I especially went to all the kind of the youth events where we used to have the old youth councils and the old music camps, and I guess that's why I'm so passionate about those events, and especially music camp, or Equip as it's now known. They were pinnacle points in my journey. So that's why I love being a part of those and making them pinnacle points in other people's journeys.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I'm just go a bit tapping on that. Your heart of like, hey, this was crazy big moments for me, so I want to make that for the next generation. I love that servant heart, which is so evident in both of you, and I'm sure will come out in this podcast, but you have beautiful servant hearts for Jesus, and it's the best. Anyway.
All right. I'm trying to think what is the best way to, I guess, inspire and instill different knowledge in people around tech that don't already know it, right? And so when I hear like church AV, I will probably, to a detriment, put it in its own bubble, right? So in its own kind of, I guess, it's its own department, some would say. They're the guys that sit at the back, they keep to themselves, those kind of things. Now, I think we just are going to get right into it, because the main thing we want to get out of you guys is, like, AV and worship for you.
Yeah.
I think it's overlooked as a worship element, probably, which is so interesting because it's the thing we probably see the most. Like,
and rely on.
And rely on so much. Like, you think about an entire church service, AV's pretty much going the whole time. Like, the preacher uses it, the band use it, the pre and post, there's slides going or something. Like, the entire time, AV is incorporated into it. And I guess, like, we just want to hear your heart around, I guess, what that means to you and, like, the worship behind that and the heart that you have around that, which I think is super overlooked, and how much of a team that is, but also how much that encompasses everyone in the church and how that communication needs to be there. So hopefully I'm not putting words in your mouth. This is my general thinking. Can you kind of speak to what AV means to you worship-wise, and the impact that has on your life?
Yeah.
Yeah. So for a couple of years running now at Equip Camp, one of the big things that I try and teach the youth who are interested in doing tech is to get out of the booth or move outside of the sound booth. It's really an easy trapping to kind of just sit in that little box and be separate from everybody. I'll go out on a limb here and say that probably most AV techs are introverted and probably don't want to talk to a lot of people. But I do strongly make it a habit that I will always go down, walk the room, get down to the stage and, have the conversations with the worship team. Because without them and without the preacher or without anyone on the stage, what I'm doing is really pointless. There's no reason for me being there without those guys on the stage. And without the guys on the stage, they can't effectively do what they do without me and my team and my talents. So I very much see tech as the extended part of the worship team family.
Yeah.
In this day and age, we can't have one without the other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I see a lot of engagement in worship, like looking around the congregation as we're in the middle of worship. And it just gives me this elated feeling that I'm adding to, I guess, the atmosphere of the room, allowing them to have this place of worship that's undisturbed and undeterred from anything else.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I could only back up what you've just said, Jimmy. I think it's I've seen it done well and I've seen it done not well. And I think what really defines it when you do it well is where all your teams are working together. Like, no team is more important than any other team. Yeah. And when you're really working well with your preachers, your bands, and every other team involved, and you're all on the same page, really does something different in worship. And I think that's really important. And I think we, as tech people or as AV people, can really make a space where you can worship, an atmosphere where you can worship. And again, you can do that by, keeping in mind all the other teams that have to do things in the service. But I really think we have that gift that we can make that worship environment. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's interesting hearing you talk about that because obviously I agree with that. But I'm also I'm just trying to think to worship environments that I've been a part of with, let's just call it AV. With AV, I feel like it doesn't get noticed unless it's a negative. Have you guys experienced that? I'm kind of like AV's just expected to be there. Like if the chorus of if you're putting words up or something like that, let's use that as an example. If the words are behind, you notice the tech team. If the words are fine, you have no idea that anyone's even doing it, right? So I guess speaking to the introvertedness of tech people, as you said, James, does that kind of have an impact on you guys personally? Do you feel like you're getting, I don't want to say credit because obviously your hearts are so in the right place, but is it hard to constantly battle the fact that maybe people don't notice what you do in some aspect? Sorry if I'm speaking out of turn here, but yeah.
Yeah, look, I think, there have been a few times where, for me at least, been under the pump trying to get whatever it was working because there's been some hiccup, which always happens in tech. That stuff happens. And you get the one or two or five people especially in the back row, kind of turn around and give you those looks, and you're like, just leave me alone. If stuff happens, but I've personally learned to just have a thick skin, and I know if this stuff happens, I can't do anything about it. To the best of my ability, I will try and fix it, but it does happen. And the only thing I could say to those people, not that I verbally say this, is that they don't understand what really is going on. They don't have the comprehension, and so all they can do is in a sense play the blame game. Mm-hmm. You're the guy. Why aren't you making this work? Well, we are. You just need to bear with us a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's kind of the you don't know what you've got until it's gone. Type scenario, right?
Yeah.
So, we came up to a point where just recently we had to get a new data projector because ours was just really dead, like really faded background kind of thing. And so for Easter, we hired in this data projector. It was amazing. You could see everything. People were just, yes, we could read the words. It's fantastic. And then obviously we had to take the hire back after Easter, and we went back to our dodgy old projector, and people were like, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, we see what having good tech means. We can actually read the screen if we have a good projector. It's kind of light bulb moment for them, but they wouldn't have realised that until we'd actually put in something good to replace something that was old. So, chicken and egg type stuff.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Like so I'm a music guy, so I'm like, oh yeah, the sound guy just keeps telling me to turn down. Like I'm like that kind of guy. I'm like,
oh, you're one of those.
I get it 100%. It's just such an interesting. It's just an interesting observation now hearing you guys speaking, and obviously, like we did a tech gathering night the other night, and look, I was just put in that because I know how to turn a computer on, but I got no idea about tech, like really, but. Just hearing hearts around this stuff is really important. And I think, probably isn't really at the forefront of conversation around AV within a church setting. Now, it might be in different churches. I can't speak for the worldwide church, but it's just interesting to hear that, and it makes me want to hug our tech team, basically. But
maybe less hugs and more Coke.
Yeah. Look, we can get into sugar and tech teams. That's a whole nother. We need a whole nother podcast for that, I reckon. Can I ask one more? Sorry to hog the mic, shush.
No,
but I'll just ask one other quick thing. Like natural inclination towards AV and tech, right? So when you're looking, like everything's through like either a music or a different creative art mindset for me. Like I'm like, do you notice? Like natural ability and natural inclination to this stuff. Did that happen for you guys, or was it something that you kind of were not pushed into, just there was a need there, so you went in there and then you learned more? Or was it like, I really want to learn about this? Like, James, I know you were saying you love everything tech. Like, is that just been a natural thing since day dot, really? You're just very interested in that stuff? Or I guess I'm just like, if there's people listening that want to help with this, or like, I guess there's two people. There's people that want to just serve and they'll do whatever they need to do that. And sometimes, whether we like that or not, I feel like that can get pushed to go do the words or something to do with AV, right? But then there's other people who love tech and they want to get involved in this. So what can we kind of speak to that? Like was this a natural ability and natural inclination thing for you guys? And is that common, I guess?
Yeah, I kind of definitely naturally kind of got into it. Through school, always liked it. I remember helping some of the teachers out in primary school with it. And then when I came across to high school, same thing. And then we down here at Wollongong moved into a new building, which opened some doors and opened some opportunities up to having a bigger tech setup, I guess you'd call it. And that's kind of where I started serving at church. We used to have some night services, and I remember one of our old AV volunteers here handing me a couple of park ends and saying, "Oh, can you make these work?" I'm like, "Yeah, how hard can it be?" And I played around with them. But yeah, that's one thing for me. I've kind of self-taught myself most of what I know, so it really comes down to just playing around with things and making them work or breaking them and then figuring out how to fix them again afterwards, which happens a lot of the time, funnily enough. So it was very natural for me. I was never really pushed into it or anything like that. It was just a natural progression, what I liked doing. Yeah.
Yeah, I as an avid Lego builder, as I mentioned, I actually recall the very first computer that I pulled apart, and I just had this curiosity of just seeing what was inside things. So I was just always diving in, and then feeling really guilty when I put it all back together and found I had like 10 screws left over and didn't know where to put them. I don't know. But, that's right, spare screws there. But, I recall the very first AV tech thing that I got into. It was at church, and I don't know if it was mum or dad, but they're like, "Oh, church about to start. We need someone on the OHP." The old things that you put the slides on. Yeah, for those who don't know what an OHP is. Yeah,
back to front.
I'll sit there and that's right. Yeah, put them on back to front. Yeah, so that's kind of where I started there, and then I went to TAFE to do a music course. I'm also a musician, and part of the music course was that we had to actually record some of our music. And when I walked into that recording studio, it was like, this is it. This is where I want to be. This is my room. I want a recording studio. I want this stuff. And it just kind of like shot off like fire from there. And I just haven't looked back.
So good. I love it. I love just sitting back and listening in this podcast, actually. I'm like, I'll just listen to you guys talk all day. This is great.
Yeah, obviously there's that's almost like a spiritual event, right? Like walking into something like that and saying, this is it. Like not many people have that, I would say. True. I'm going to blanket that statement, but, I don't know if I've ever had that exact moment with anything, and I would consider myself in creative arts all the time. But, yeah, I guess obedience is a massive part of that, and that's what I hear from that. Like you're sitting in this room and it's pretty easy to be like, oh yeah, I love this, but I'm not going to chase this. Like there's obviously you had to act on that obedience, and I don't know, just commend you for that. I think that's really good, and obviously like a spiritual moment, and as we've like dove into, that's worship for you, and I think that's great, especially because there's a theme over what we've been talking about a lot during this podcast is like there is obviously emphasis on what we know as worship being probably more music orientated as again a blanket statement. Like it's actually there are people who don't associate music with worship, and that's okay. You know what I mean? Like that's fine. Now that's not you, James. Obviously you're studying music, but you know what I mean? It's about opening our eyes to all different forms of worship and celebrating them as much as we possibly can. And I love hearing this because it's something I've never had a conversation with like anyone about this really. So it's really good to hear those things.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, Will, but sometimes sitting at the larger events where we have, massive moving lights and huge PA, sometimes I get the tingles. It feels really good when the band hits that really crisp, tight note and it just sounds awesome and the lights have just put in that massive effect on the stage. You just go, oh, that's it. That's the point. Everyone in the room is just like snapped right there.
Yeah.
The Holy Spirit tingles.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right. Yeah.
And I think people would get that without knowing why as well, right? As in like, I think everyone in the room would be captivated by what the AV are doing there and how everything's in cohesion and in unison, but they wouldn't know. They wouldn't be able to audibly tell you.
Yeah.
The way that those lights hit that note did something to me, but they would just know something happened, which is so interesting.
Yeah.
And I can't really get my head around that, but I love it.
How to say? It's like all the different like AV tech elements are building, right? They're all building on each other and all supporting so that this thing can happen. And so people might even go, oh, when the band hit that. But what they don't realize is all the little things that have built up. So the preacher can do that thing, or the band can do that thing, and it's all built, not all of it, but a lot of it is all this tech support, which, like, I don't, in a way shouldn't be, unless in some cases it might be the focus, but in a way they often shouldn't be the focus. They should be supporting this other aspect of worship, but it builds up to that high, and is so often we don't see that. We just see the top bit. It's like the iceberg. You know that image with the iceberg? We all see the tip, but we don't see what happens under the water that is leading to that tip, you know?
So we've kind of spoken around the cohesion between AV, music, the preacher, everyone involved in leadership, I guess, of a service. We've also kind of gone into what actually worship is with AV. Can we speak into your day jobs a little bit? Like, you're both involved in AV avenues in your day job. How does that, like, where do you see God in that? Is probably my question there. Yeah, where do you see God in your day job? Obviously, you're following the desires of your heart that God has given you. But yeah, how does that kind of? There's a weird tension there between normally the secular and the church. So how do you kind of manage that, and how do you see God there?
Good question. I guess I work with people that aren't Christian. But in my my job that I have at the moment, which I've been there for 3, 4, somewhere about that many years, I've actually had the opportunity to have lots of conversations that just come up randomly, but are about God, Jesus, even the Salvation Army. The guy I work with is really curious about all that type of stuff. And yeah, I guess just being able to have those conversations and being put in that situation where I can have those conversations. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good and really important. You're using your gift to evangelize.
Yeah.
Effectively.
Yeah, taking hold of the opportunities that God places before you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in a similar boat. So the company I work for now, I've only been there just over 6, maybe 7 months now. And I absolutely love these guys. They're like a second family now. And they all know that I'm a Christian and that I go to church. None of them are. But they're happy to just accept me, which is like the opposite thing. Like we're supposed to accept everyone else. But they're actually accepting of me as a Christian, which is it's an interesting reversal concept. But you know, just like Will has said, there's been some opportunities where, you know, questions have been asked, and it's just I've been able to say, oh yeah, no, I can input into this. You know, I can talk about this. And again, I think it's the people, but I don't feel any anxiety or, you know, pull back to not express my faith with these guys at work, which is really cool, because I know there's probably plenty of people out there, probably the majority of people out there that go to work and would feel like they'd be martyred if they even said the word Christian or God or Bible, or, you know. So
Yeah.
I'm definitely in one of those unique, wonderful positions.
That's so good.
No, it's really consistent with pretty much everyone we've had on this. Like,
I know. Isn't it crazy? Every time people start talking, I'm like, man, this is so consistent. God is like, yeah, it's very cool.
which is great, because, like, at the end of the day, we just want to unify all this, right? Like, we want people's creative art to be unified throughout the church and throughout the world, really. And so I guess this is just re-emphasizing. It's like this
100%.
will be our 7th or 8th episode that is the same as others, but with a different format. And I think that's just speaks to what God's doing in this space in general.
Which is it's so biblical, right? Because it's just the body of Christ. Like it's it's the limbs, it's the legs, and it's what you guys have been talking about. Like we can't have one without the other. Like, you know, you can't have 10 hands and no feet, like whatever that passage is in the Bible. Like you've got to have each other. And so, yeah, I love that this is like promoting that unity and promoting that. I guess it's giving us an insight into other art forms and their perspective. So hopefully we can understand it better and then work together better, creating that better culture where we're actually unified and we're valuing what that person does. So you've got a bit of a glimpse, bit of an understanding, and yeah, just loving what they are, respecting and valuing them, because we need each other so much, you know? I just love that it has such a biblical undertone, which is, I mean, of course, like it makes sense, but I love that it comes out and the culture seems to be consistent in every episode and everyone we talk to. It's so great. I love it.
It's like freedom in worship comes through the unity, right? Of
Yeah,
everything.
yeah.
Like that's how we get there. So, yeah. No, it's really good. We're just blabbling on
sorry.
about what we're
That's
hearing. But,
we're all part of like the bigger worship team. We're all the worshippers, you know?
Yeah.
It's good.
Can I ask around, it's not controversial, I just don't want it to have a negative flair, but like burnout around AV people. From my experience, I've seen the same people doing the same thing for, I would say, almost 10 years now. Yeah, can you is that like is that just my circumstances different to other people's, or is that something you've noticed? Like, I know burnout is such a buzzword, and I really didn't want to use it, but I guess like challenges around either not enough people or using people too much in this area. Can you speak to that?
Yeah. It's interesting. I think, what's the word? People kind of look at the AV industry, and I'm just going to label this as, people just think it's a man's industry. You don't see a lot of women in tech, or I've not actually seen a lot of women in tech. And the guys that are in tech have either studied it or are just deeply into it, that they make it look like that really weird black box that you just, we can't do any of that. So we'll just leave him in that space. And there he sits for the next 10, 20 years doing the same thing. And, the thing with technology is that it's always changing. The thing that you buy brand new today is not brand new probably in the next 5 minutes. So, there's something new out every single time. And if you're just sitting there trying to be the guy with the brand new stuff, you will burn out really, really quickly. And if you're a one-man team, you burn out even quicker.
Yeah.
Doing everything all on your own.
Yeah.
I think one of the cool things that we're trying to do over here in Sydney is whenever we put on our youth events, particularly, so like our youth councils and the quick camps and whatever, we try and mentor younger people and invite younger people onto the team, because we know that it's impossible for us to stay here forever. I'm now married and got 3 kids, and as much as I love doing it, there's going to be a point in time where I've just got to say no, and I've got to pass the baton on to someone, and there has to be someone there. So for us, it's important, I think, that we mentor the younger people. And not to say that older people can't come on. I think, Will, you'll probably agree with me that if anyone comes up and asks, hey, I want to learn this thing, we'll gladly say, yeah, come. But I think sometimes it is just that black box of mystery, and that's kind of one of the causes of being the lone wolf here, that no one, like, they look at all the gear and go, oh, that just looks way too complicated and just not for me. And I think that's one of the reasons for causing the isolation. And then obviously, the second is we're not on teaching other people to come into our circle.
Yeah, do you have like any advice for if a core officer or a pastor of a church that might be struggling in this area is listening? Do you have any advice for them to try and, I guess, incorporate a culture that brings people up so that they're not relying on the one, or they actually have someone to rely on? Like, is there, like you mentioned, you're obviously mentoring younger people when you've got these divisional events on, but what if they're, from someone's perspective, there is actually no one to mentor there? Like what? Yeah, do you have any advice around that?
That's a hard one.
Yeah.
I guess you kind of got to have somewhere to start. I'd say, look, in most churches there'd be people that are willing to serve, and even if they don't have technical knowledge, the basic of the basic church really needs someone to, press the next button on lyrics. Small churches, it's normally pretty simple, I guess, to say, the tech setup.
Yeah.
So I guess just trying to find people that are willing to serve in that way, and even if you say, look, can you do the slides once a month or once every couple of months, and you might find that person will find an interest, and when they're doing it, they'll learn and they'll grow, and you might find that team kind of develops organically, but. I'd say find anyone that's willing to help. Or never say no, and utilise them. Yeah.
So what I'm hearing really is it's much more about the heart, like the servant heart, than the skill itself. Like if you're willing, like, and you're like, I want to help, I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm here, it's a skill, right? You can teach skills. It might take some people 5 seconds, it might take people 5 years, but you can teach skills. It's, from what I'm hearing, it's much more about the heart, to be willing and able and serving,
Yeah,
for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think, and Will would probably agree with this, with Equip especially, where it's an elective, where the campers choose to do our tech elective. We find, except for the ones where the parents have just said, no, you go to the selective. The majority of our tech stream at Equip Camp are these young people who have the attitude, who have the heart of wanting to do this kind of stuff. They might not have the technical ability or, know half of anything to do tech, but they've got the heart and the passion. They want to be there and doing it. And, that's definitely key. We can teach skills, but we can't teach passion.
Boom. That's like a T-shirt right there. That's like a T-shirt slogan. On a similar level then, like advice to, so say there's a kid out there that's taking apart computers and finding, interest in those things at home. Like, do you have advice for that? If you're seeing yourself in a younger person, do you have advice for them moving forward in the AV industry, I guess? Do you have advice there?
Look, I'd probably say a very easy way to start off is volunteering. And especially if you are, younger, even in high school. I know around Wollongong, and I'm guessing it's the same across Australia. We do kind of musicals. I guess you could call them musicals, concerts. I've never really been, so I don't really know what it is. But they do something musical at the entertainment centre down here with school kids, and they allow kids to come along and volunteer, and I guess get to work alongside a large production company, because it is, even though it's a school production, it's done very well and done very professionally. So like events like that you can go along and just, even if you're just watching, sitting there watching, and normally if you're along at one of those events, they'll get you to do some of the more basic jobs, but just get your head in the, in the world of AV and get your foot in the door. That's kind of where I started from, and normally you'll find if you are committed and you put your best foot forward and give it your all, somebody will kind of pick up on that and say, oh, well, can you help me at this event? And gradually you'll get into the paid workforce. But yeah, it's I used to say at the old company I used to work for, we used to get lots of people with resumes come in, and they'd have all these qualifications on there, and I used to say, yep, cool, I'll get them to come to an event with me and I'll actually see what they actually know, because AV is not something that can be explained by a bit of paper. So it's really about real-world experience and their passion behind it that really makes or breaks. So, yeah.
Yeah, if you are a kid and, you love doing this technical stuff, from a church point of view, I think one of the best things you can do, now obviously you're restricted with your parents, but try and get there as early as you can and stay back after church as late as you can, because techies are usually the first ones to arrive and the last to leave. Just it's not just about being behind the mixer. There's so much more in tech. If the stage needs to be cleaned, just put your hand up and say, yeah, I'll clear off the stage for you. If they need to pack up some microphone leads, yeah, put your hand up. I'll roll the leads for you. If you need to, at the end of church, I'll go pick up the microphone so you don't have to. That stuff, it sounds really small and lame and just, repetitive tasks, but that's the bulk of tech work, unfortunately. If the senior techie or whoever's doing tech notices that you as a young person is, really keen on that and you're getting in and helping every week doing these things, then they'll want you on the team. But I want to kind of reverse that as well. To any veterans who are sitting behind the console, don't just push away the little kid who is asking the questions, because chances are they legit want to be on your team and want to help you. And we've got too few of these people, so don't push them away. Mentor them and give them tasks to do and help them out.
That's a great point.
Yeah, I meant to say this before and I forgot, but you've reminded me, Jace. In the idea of not a lot of people to mentor or bring up or whatever in tech, and when you need people, I think another thing I would suggest as someone who's not really a techie is pray, right? Because the Bible says the laborers are few and harvest is full, the laborers are few. That verse, you know what I'm talking about. I'm not very articulate today, but that includes our ministries within the church, things like tech and all this. Pray for people to come in. You never know what God's going to do. So yes, have a look around what you do have, but if you can't find people there, pray that God would bring those people. And I pray, I guess, over people listening who are like, I don't have anyone. I pray that God would give you someone. God would open doors, whether it's someone new or whether maybe it's just a random connection through a family store or whatever, who happens to go, oh yeah, I'm interested in AV. I'll come and help you out on a Sunday morning, I pray that God would bring up more techies, and also I'm going to put in there more female techies. I worked in a theater for a hot minute doing lighting and sound and stuff, and so passionate about females in those spaces. So let's go, girls, come on. But also guys too, we'll take them all.
Yep, we'll take anyone.
Rant over.
No, that is good. Well done, Shush. Great rant.
Oh, thanks so much.
I think we should do some honouring.
Yes.
What do you think, Shush?
Yep.
I just want to honour you both for being the first person there and the last person to leave for such a long time. And just honour the heart that you guys have, the heart that you have for unity and for actually seeing Jesus' kingdom come, however that looks. It is obvious that you're not being bound by your own traditions or religions. You're doing what you believe Jesus wants you to do. And so I just want to honour you for that. I want to honour you for taking those dirty looks sometimes when the mic doesn't work or the words aren't right. I just want to say, I just honour you for taking that and taking that on in possibly a very unrecognised space that is quite isolated in some aspects. So just thank you so much for that. I want to honour your parents, James, for you mentioned before that all your brothers, is it just brothers or brothers and sisters?
Yeah, just 3 brothers.
Three brothers, all Christians, active Christians. The prayers of your parents have trickled down to you, so I'm throwing honour that way too.
Whoop, whoop.
But yeah, just thank you so much. You guys have been so willing to help with anything we've ever done. Will, like, you've done so much for our team. We're so thankful for that. We want to honour you for that. Yeah, that's from the bottom of my heart. Just want to honour you guys and let you know what you're doing is amazing, and I can't respect you more.
Yeah. I just want to shine a light on you two and like the whole tech community. Like, turn the light around and put it at like the box at the back, because honestly, you do so much, and we couldn't do half the things we do, particularly when we're talking about worship arts, which is like us. We couldn't do half the things we do without you. And especially you two do it without complaining. Like, it's just flowing with love. It's like you pour your love out through tech and through your time and your effort. And so I just want to recognize you for that and say thank you for your service to the kingdom. Ultimately, it's for Jesus, and I know that your heart is for that. And so thank you. And we want to honor you for that, because you don't get enough recognition. So yeah, thank you for that. And thank you for all the unseen things, the things we know about and the things we don't know about, because there's a whole bunch we don't know that you do. And so I want to thank you for the unseen things you do as well. And to all the techies out there, there's for you, Will and James, but also I want to also throw a bit to all the techies out there, because I don't think you get enough recognition.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No worries. Well, look, that probably wraps it up, to be completely honest.
Yeah, I think so.
Thanks so much for your time.
Yeah,
No problem.
You guys
Good
are
to be here.
heroes.
Hey, there we go.
I mean,
Wouldn't it
again-
be great if we were all together? That would be nice.
Dan, you need to come to Sydney is what I'm hearing.
It was very good.
Yeah, no worries.